Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindalia TV livestream, where many people around the world are gathering daily to watch the interviews and talks organized by MindaliaTV.com. In this occasion, it is our pleasure to have with us John Ayo with a talk titled Wellness Magic, Secrets for Energy, Vitality, and Longevity. Our speaker today was a sales leader for a large technological company, where he led the team that closed the largest software deal in its history, worth over $1 billion. He moved into sales training, where he traveled to over 26 countries, and then transitioned into an obsession with health. He's recovering. He calls himself a recovering overachiever, perfectionist, and a black belt in Aikido. He's also trilingual. He speaks corporate, geek, and health. He's now living his passion as a natural health doctor in Plano, Texas, and he's the author of the book Travel Balance that shows travelers how to stay balanced on the road. Professional speaker, author, and adventurous dad of tween teens, John Ayo will be helping us learn today about natural health options. But right before we start, I would like to remind you all that if you would like to help the world through Mindalia, there are a few things that you can do. One of them is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mindalia TV, give us a like on this video, or leave a positive comment down below. Please remember that with these actions, you help us reach even more people just like you who can benefit from the content of our channel. Also, to allow your live interaction, please remember there is a chat on the side of our screen. You can use it to ask all the questions that you would like to our guest, who will kindly answer them by the end of his lecture. Without further delay, please welcome John Ayo and his talk title, Wellness Magic, Secrets for Energy, Vitality, and Longevity. Hi, John. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hello, Paolo. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. Yeah, a lot of people ask, how did you get from working in this big tech company to all of a sudden being a natural health doctor? It's not like I woke up one day and went, I don't think I'm busy enough. I think I'll go get a doctorate in naturopathy. So the answer was I got sick, and that's kind of how I got there. So I am excited to talk with the group today. So I'm looking for slides, I think, right?
Thank you so much. 1 second, we'll have them ready for you.
Oh, okay, perfect. Moving from the world of tech sales into this space was not on my career agenda to get here, but I'm excited to now share my passion with you. So let's get started. All right, so next slide. So secrets for energy, vitality, and longevity. So really, if you look at this quote, this is something that I lived, right? And I'm not a big photographer, but I got lucky and actually took this picture. One of my favorite places on the planet in Santorini. And the quote is, health is a crown on the well man's head, but only the sick man can see it. As with so many things in life, you really just don't appreciate it until you lose it. And I lost my health, and that's how I got on this path. So I am here to help you tonight to give you some thoughts on how do you keep the health if you have it, or if you've kind of lost things and it's getting off track, maybe some thoughts on ideas of things that you can do today to get things back on track. So next slide. So 7 principles of natural health. Basically, naturopaths, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second, we believe that the body knows how to heal itself, and it always wants to and always is healing itself. We have to give it the things that it needs, and then we have to take away the things that are harming it. So tonight we're going to talk about these 7 principles, and there's always different ways you can go through these different lists, and everybody has their own lists, and we can add and remove things, but I'm going to talk about the things that I think are most important for the body. So if you just click the button there, you'll see this is the principles of naturopathy. So click. And naturopathy, again, are these 7 things, the body will heal itself. So naturopaths have been around for the last couple hundred years or so in the US. And today you see more and more of it as people are looking more toward natural health. So next. So naturopathy. Okay, so wellness, when we talk about wellness for a lot of people, they just say, well, I don't have diabetes or I don't have any major diagnosed illness. It's not really just this absence of disease, but really it's more than that. It's the ability to have complete health in your body at all times. So it's about optimal levels of integration, body, mind, and spirit. We are spiritual beings living in these little bodysuits. And so we want to make sure we take care of our bodies. And so wellness is not just, I don't feel as bad as I used to, but more importantly, it's about being at your optimal, happy, healthy, and whole so that you can do the job that you came here to do while you're here. So the four main causes of disease, if you look at this from John's perspective, number one is really too many toxins in the body. So if you look at the world that we live in today, oh my gosh, it's a very, very toxic place. There's things we can control and things that are much more difficult. So we want to focus on helping with the things that we can control. So the ones you can't or that are more difficult are the air that you breathe. So the toxicity that's in the air from all the different chemicals that we put out there is difficult because you're having to breathe that and you're not going to walk around with a mask. The water that you drink, we have the ability to filter that. So it's always a good idea to drink filtered water and try and limit that. The toxins you have in your house, start to use more natural cleaning products so that you're not absorbing these chemicals. And the smells, whenever I see things like the Glade plugins and toxicity kind of smells, you got to be careful with those, or certain candles. So toxins in the body is a huge thing, and it just builds up over time, and that's what leads to these the dis-ease in the body. So for kiddos, they're born, and sometimes it's like, well, how are kids toxic if they're babies? Well, they get a lot of it from mom and partially from dad, but they come into the world with a certain level of toxicity, and they also come in with a certain ability to detoxify on their own. So too many toxins is number one. So number two, nutritional deficiencies is a big part. So remember, we're going to take away what's hurting the body. That's the toxins. Could be heavy metals, chemicals, a bunch of other things. And number two is nutritional deficiencies. We're not getting enough of what we need to build healthy cells in the body. So it is in our best interest to make sure that we're putting in the raw materials for our body to make healthy cells at every step of the way, because it's constantly rebuilding. All the parts of you have been rebuilding over the last several weeks and months, and different body parts. And in a few years, your whole body is like regenerated itself. And so we want to make sure that you have the right raw materials so that you're giving the body what it needs to build cells. So the third area of disease is electromagnetic chaos. And a lot of people don't look at this, but it's a really big deal. And what this is we live in a world with great technology. It's so cool that we have the ability to do calls like this, and we can record this, and have cell phones. And so we have the little cell phone next to us, and we have Wi-Fi, and we have XM radio and FM radio, and all these different cellular electromagnetic frequencies that are bouncing around. And since we are energy beings, this is interfering with our little biofield. And so we need to do some things to manage this, again, to the best of our ability. So we'll take a look at that as well. The fourth thing then that we look at is just stress. And I shouldn't say just stress, because this is the world we live in, and this is probably the number one cause of most chronic disease. In fact, 92% of most of the chronic issues that we have come down to this one. And the stress, again, can have many forms. It can be the things that are going on in your life, in your work. Your health itself could be a stressor for you. It can be relationships, can be the three items above, which are all stressors on the body. So our mission, in order to live a balanced life, is really to figure out, how can I minimize the stress every step of the way? Now, Paula, do you have any stress in your life? Make sure that you're over there listening.
Of course I do. I have a toddler. I work from home. I am a busy woman.
And you have a husband. Not that husbands would be stressful.
Not at all.
Not at all. Good. So stress is a big deal. And again, some things we can control, some you can't, and you got to figure out ways to manage it. So we got to figure out, and we're going to talk about, how do we release some of this. So let's move on, and let's talk about the next step here. It's all in your head. For those that have ever been to a doctor, you have some kind of chronic health condition, and you go to different doctors and they say, you know what, it's all in your head. I know you really think you got pain, Paula, but you don't have pain. It's really all in your head. I've heard this, and many people that have been on a very difficult health journey have heard this. And the answer is, it might be. So this book by Hal Huggins is something that you might look into. If you've been to more than 4 or 5 medical doctors and they can't figure out what's wrong with you, you might look at the teeth. So whenever I have clients in my practice that come in and they have some issues that they had for several years and they just can't seem to find the issue, I always ask about the teeth. And why is that? Well, first you have the general toxicity in the body, which is just from like amalgam fillings, the silver fillings, which the American Dental Association says is not a big deal, but I would beg to differ with that, as would a lot of holistic or biological dentists that I work with. So amalgam fillings, will put toxic mercury and other heavy metals into the body, which can cause issues, but more importantly, all of the energy channels in our bodies. So we have these energy channels, the acupuncture meridians that run through the body, and they run through all of the teeth. And so whenever you have an issue, you could have a root canal on a certain tooth that's causing issues with your liver, and it would be hard to know that unless you ask these questions. So don't forget about the teeth. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this tonight, but I would tell you, if you're running into some issues and you don't know what's going on, find a holistic or biological dentist. And in the US, the organization is IAOMT.org. And I'm not sure what the acronym is, but it's for our biological dentist friends that know that the teeth are part of the body. So moving on, the next step here is when we look at water. My God, we are so dehydrated, especially in the US. And I think it's this way around a lot of places in the world. But chronic dehydration, look at this list of issues that you can have in the body, the asthma, allergies, arthritis, all these different things, because we're not drinking enough. So how do we know how much is enough? Well, number one, before we get into how much is enough, is the quality. So again, you want to make sure that you're drinking good quality water. We'll talk about breathing later, but if you put things in priorities, and as I work with clients, again, we talk about this. Number one is you can only go for a few minutes without air. So oxygen and breathing are just vitally important for us, and we're going to talk a little bit about that shortly. Number two is water. You can only go for a few days without water. You can go for a week or two without food. So water is crucial. Make sure you get good quality water. The best is spring water because it has all of the minerals in it and some good energy in it. The second would be, and there's other kind of in the list here, but reverse osmosis water is going to filter out most everything. And I know there are those that say, oh, you got to have the minerals. What about the minerals? You're going to get them from your food. So I would, focus on getting good reverse osmosis water and spring water. And there's a bunch of different other options out there, but get something that's not tap water, and that will help. And drink about half your body weight in ounces is a good place to start with the water. That's a target. So if you weigh 160 pounds, then 80 ounces of water is a target that you'd want to drink throughout the day, not just all in one sitting. So if we look at breathing, I wish this was Plano, but Plano's just north of Dallas, and we don't have any of this beautiful nature. There's some parks around, but it doesn't quite look like this. So if you have this around you, or you're around nature, and of course there's trees and stuff and parks that we can go to, get out in nature, because that's the trees are creating the oxygen for us. So that's number one. It just helps clear your head. And then we'll talk a little bit later about some other cool things in nature, like getting your bare feet out there to connect with this amazing planet that we have. But getting outside and breathing properly. So Paola, a lot of people are, when they're sitting here at their computer, they breathe and they're all scrunched over. And so we just breathe in our chest. And so when I ask people to take a deep breath, you just see their chest go out. And that's not the best, because you're not allowing your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming part, to really engage. And in order to do that, what you need to do is make sure you're breathing through your diaphragm. So you'd want to put your hand about 2 or 3 inches below your belly button. And then when you take a deep breath, make sure that your stomach is coming out and that it's like a balloon that's in there and it's just kind of blowing out. So that way you're breathing deeply. And for a lot of people, this will help with so many conditions, especially things around anxiety, which is just, again, lack of oxygen. And the list goes on. So breathing is vitally important. And we learn a lot of that. I do yoga, and then again in martial arts, we learn about breathing and the importance of proper breathing. So that's a big deal. So moving on. And if you have any questions, Paola, or if you see anything in the chat, you just bring them on. So exercise, we could spend, a couple hours talking about exercise. I'm not going to dive into a lot of this, but the key thing is the body is this electrical system, almost more than it is chemical. There's certainly all the biochemical aspects, but there's so much around the electricity aspects and the voltage that's in our cells. And so we're kind of like little batteries, and the way we charge up our battery, one way is through exercise. It moves the lymphatic system. So if you look at that fourth bullet, drives the lymphatic system. Lymphatic is kind of like the drainage system in the body. When the cells, they eat their food and then they spit out some waste products, and we hope those waste products go away. Well, a lot of that waste goes through the lymphatic system, which is kind of the liquid, again, the part of the sewer line in the body, and there's several of them. But the only way that thing moves is through exercise. So our heart pumps and it moves the blood through our cardiovascular system, but the only way the lymph moves is if we move. So if you're laying in bed or you're watching a lot of Netflix, the lymphatic system isn't moving, it's going to be harder to heal. That's why it's so important that you get out and do something. Even, just walking is awesome. So Paola, what do you think is the best exercise? You have a vote?
I believe in my case, is running.
Running is the best. Some people will say running, swimming, yoga, walking, basketball, whatever. The best exercise is the one that you'll do, whatever that is. And that's the key, is something that you enjoy and then you'll get out and do, preferably in nature if you can do that. So it makes the bones stronger as you're looking for, building a healthy frame, which is really important as we get older. We have to do weight-bearing exercise. So if I'm sitting on a bike or I'm sitting on my chair or I'm doing elliptical riders or even swimming, unfortunately, it's not bearing the weight of your body. So walking and running and tennis and anything where you are supporting your weight on your bones, that's what makes them grow stronger. And then strengthening muscles, all those different parts we know from weightlifting and other forms of yoga. And then I don't know that I'm going to get into a whole bunch of these. Depression, mood, those things are all improved dramatically. I've just seen several studies in the last few weeks that talk about the impact on your mood just with exercise. And then, of course, the aerobic exercise, for strengthening the heart and the cardiovascular system, nothing like it. So Indian yoga, I do yoga. So this is asanas with props. Look at that. Requires years of practice to achieve this. So I don't know about this next one. So look at this next slide. Maybe some of you have seen this one. I don't know. It's called, next slide is Mexican yoga. Requires about 3 to 4 hours to achieve with a bottle of tequila. So hopefully we won't see anybody in this particular case. So people ask me about alcohol and is it something that's worthwhile? And I talk about that. I wrote my book about staying healthy when you travel, really from a business travel perspective. And so I put a whole section in there on alcohol because that's the reality of it, is whenever you're doing business travel, you're going to go to dinner and invariably there's going to be some kind of alcohol. We're going to have wine or other kinds of drinks. So alcohol in general is not real healthy for our body, for our liver, mostly because of the high sugar concentration and something around fungi that make things not so healthy for us. In moderation, though, I think it's okay for me. And I know you didn't even ask this, but I'm giving you a little side thing because the tequila bottle reminded me. Red wine tends to be one of the best things, but you just have to be careful that it's from organic grapes and you don't have a lot of pesticides and herbicides in there, because if the grapes had all that and then you ferment that and process it in the wine, then it's going to be just more concentrated chemicals and issues and therefore more toxins in your body. So if you can get good quality wine from good quality organic grapes, then in moderation, probably a pretty good thing. The clear liquors tend to be a little bit easier to process, and there are supplements and herbs that you can take to help your body to move that through quicker. Things like silymarin is a particular herb that helps with the liver to keep it healthy and also to move things along. So just a quick thought on that. So this chart is pretty nasty, and it starts, ends in 2000. I don't even want to know where it is today in 2020, or, with the next 2010, 2020 on that chart. You can see where we're headed. And if people ask, what is one of the most toxic things or worst things I can eat? It is probably sugar. I'm not going to say by far, but sugar is 10 times more addictive than cocaine in the body. And there's just really nothing beneficial here. So the cells, of course, run on sugar, on glucose, but it's not this that we're talking about here, which is processed white stuff. This, unfortunately, feeds a lot of pathogens in the body. So fungi and viruses and bacteria, a lot of times this is what they eat, and it's not going to be helpful for us. It's also what feeds cancer. As we know from some studies in the past. So it leads to metabolic syndrome and a whole bunch of other issues. So the thought is, what can we do to reduce sugar in our diets? And it's not just, adding tablespoons of this stuff, but it's also looking at where is it buried in food. So if you look in popular foods here, you can see 14 teaspoons of sugar in Gatorade. So, that was developed in a college football program to help put electrolytes into the body, because as we sweat, we lose these electrolytes, also known as minerals, so the calcium and magnesium and potassium. And why do we need those things? Because remember, we're electrical beings, so the body needs those minerals in order to push the electricity through the body. And when you lose the electrolytes, bad things happen. But there are better ways to get them in your body without all this sugar. So you can do packets of things like Emergency, or other sorts of mineral supplements without getting all the sugar. If you look at the bottom there at the raspberry yogurt, 43 grams of sugar. Much better to just get plain yogurt, get a good quality, and then just add the raspberries on top, which is what I do. And in that case, it's a pretty healthy breakfast in moderation. But you can see from the list here, pretty scary numbers on the sugar. So moving on. Yeah, highlighted those. Whole food. If we look at synergy. So one of the things when I first started off on this path, and I was getting my doctorate back in the early 2000s, I used to be taking this super duper multivitamin that had all the right milligrams and IUs of everything. And I started, I had another nutrition doctorate person here that would challenge me, and we debate back and forth on this. And she was talking about the value of whole food supplements versus specific vitamin and mineral supplements. And so what you look at is studies on them have failed to show the same effects as the whole food. So when I get vitamin A in the form of retinol palmitate, a very specific energy in the body or chemical in the body or vitamin, it's not the same as having a food that is high in that particular vitamin level. So if we move on, it's really about the synergy of these things, right? So it's kind of like looking at an orchestra. And if I go to an orchestra and you can't just take out the violinist, you can't just add in one or two pieces, you need the whole thing. So when I eat whole foods, we've been programmed for thousands of years for our bodies to process these nutrients and get all the right nutrition into the right parts of the body, into the right cells. So when I eat a whole food, this is what I get. Directions for the body. Yeah, you get all the phytonutrients, you get all the goodies in there, but the body knows what to do with it and knows how to process it. So if you move on, when we take vitamins, a lot of times what vitamins look like is a fractionated piece of this. So vitamins gives us a partial message, and it looks like this. Oh, we get some of the things in there, but we miss out on the ones we haven't found yet. So if you look in a lab and we find out that we need cholecalciferol or we need niacin and so many milligrams and IUs of everything, you'll get a lot of the letters, but it won't be in the complete whole food form that the body understands. And the net of it is we just can't replace what God put in our food. The system that we have here on this planet is set up for us to be healthy, and all of the food and nutrition and the sun and everything here is here for a reason. And the more we get in the middle and start doing our man-made, we can make it better model, we make it worse. So there's just too many nutrients that we have not discovered in the body. So one of the supplements that I've been recommending, because people go, well, what do you like? This is the one that is my favorite, called Juice Plus, that I've been using for, 14 years now. And it's basically talks about whole foods in form. So the product actually has a food label that you would see that has all these different fruits and vegetables, and Vineyard Blend adds the berries and chewables in form, and chewables and in capsules. And then what we've done is 38 different research studies that show what it does in the body. So one of my favorites for sure. So next is the sun. So I talked about the things on this planet that we have kind of gotten away from. Well, one of them is food. So what we've done is we've kind of traded out all the best farming practices that we had in lieu of money. So we used to do, you have a big field and you would grow everything and the crops were out there and everything was going well. And then you would pick all the crops and then you wouldn't use that field. You would rotate it and let it sit for a while so that the minerals could come back up, and then we put fertilizer on it and we had awesome soil. And the plants, of course, absorb all the minerals, and that's what we eat, and that's where we get our nutrition. So what's been said is that, what would be 1 cup of spinach from 1950 today takes maybe 30 cups to equal the same nutritional value, because we've depleted the soil. Why? Because we just continue to grow things and we keep putting in the synthetic fertilizer into the soil. It makes the plants grow, but it's not the same plants. And that is the general theme in the world of natural health, it seems like, is that we use the same words for a lot of things, but it's really very different. So when I talk about milk, is milk a good thing or a bad thing? Well, if you have Bessie the cow in Argentina out there eating grass, and you go out and milk Bessie the cow and you drink that, it's called milk, and it's really pretty good for you. But today, if you have cows in the US sitting in a big feedlot being fed corn and grains and antibiotics and growth hormones, and we milk that stuff and we pasteurize it and we homogenize it, it's called milk, but it's two very different things, and that one is not so good for us. So it's about the way we define things. So back to our friend the sun, we really, for thousands of years lived in harmony with the sun. Now all of a sudden it's our enemy. We got to slather on sunscreen as soon as we wake up. Not sure that's exactly the case. So I'm a huge fan, along with this book, that says in moderation, we really need the sun. We need the energy of the sun in order to be alive, because this is what our body craves and all the cells crave. And there are those who just live off of looking at the sun, which is an interesting thing. They're called breatharians. Haven't studied it, haven't tried it, but apparently that's one way that you can get the sun to nourish your body. So for us, we want to get out there at least for 15 to 20 minutes a day, get into the sun, and on your unprotected skin as much as you can. 15 to 20 minutes will allow your body to create this hormone called vitamin D that is incredibly important for us. So we want to make sure that you get out there. If you're going to be out longer than that, then you want to get some good quality sunscreen, and you can go to ewg.org and look at their sunscreen report, and they'll tell you which ones to use, because whatever you put on your skin is going to get absorbed into your body, and it can have a huge impact on your hormone system. So make sure that whatever you put on when you're looking at the ingredients would be something you might even think about eating, because it gets absorbed in there. So we really need the sun. Luckily for us, we can get it by getting out in it, and we can also get the energy of the sun through the plants that we eat, the food that we eat, because the foods, the plants are all absorbing the energy of the sun with photosynthesis, and then when we eat them, we get that energy, which is awesome. So sleep and rest, tough one for us, especially in the US. It doesn't seem like we're the best sleepers here. So I want to make sure that we make this a priority whenever we can. So we can go back to the sleep one. Make this a priority whenever we can. And sometimes you don't have a choice, but if possible, you want to get to bed before midnight. In fact, the more hours before midnight you can get in count almost twice as much as the hours after midnight. So if I go to sleep at 10, those 2 hours from 10 to midnight almost count like from midnight to 4 on the other side, because the body does a lot of detoxing in those 2 hours. We used to, again, live in harmony with this planet, and we would go to bed when the sun goes down, and then we would get up when the sun comes up. But now with electronics and electricity, we can have the lights on and the computers on and the cell phones on and all the CMFs coming in, and it messes up our circadian rhythm. Absolutely critical that we get sleep. How much do we need? 6 to 8 hours, depending on the person. So it's not a hard and fast thing, but if you're getting 4 hours of sleep and think you're doing well, you're cheating the clock, and it's going to come back. So we are energetic beings. As I've said before, the body has its own intelligence, and the Western medical model understands the physical body very well. And you can see the nervous system and the cardiovascular system and all the different things that we can measure in a dead body. But what we don't see are these energy centers. And this is where the Eastern model comes in, and why it's so awesome that we have the capability to have both sides, because the Western model is fabulous at acute care, and it's amazing in the ability for doctors to put us back together again when things happen. On the Eastern side, and more kind of where I spend my time is more in chronic illness, we look at these energy centers. So you've heard about the chakras from yoga, primarily, and from other Ayurvedic systems. And they're basically these little spinning wheels. And you can see the first chakra at the bottom there in red kind of points down, and you go through the other 5, and then at the top, the 7th chakra points up and is our connection. And a lot of times these things get blocked. And this is where we need to intervene and help open these things up. So I'll talk a little bit about more about different ways to do that. The second one on the right there, the meridians, are really the fiber optic system of the body. And I talked earlier when I was speaking about the teeth, that all of the meridians run through the teeth in the body. They run all over, and you can look on the internet and see the charts for the different meridian systems in the body. But when you go to an acupuncturist, they are looking for what are the imbalances here. There's a blockage in a channel, in an energy channel called a meridian. And so what they do is try and figure out where is that blockage, and this is where the magic comes in. And then they stick a needle or many needles into where those blockages may be to open them up, clear the channel. Once the energy is flowing again, then the body can heal itself. And again, that's really what's happening, is the body always wants to heal itself. We as practitioners just help. The auric fields are basically all of the energy from the chakras and the meridians and everything else come together and form this little biofields. You see on the right there, that little egg-looking thing. Some see that as an aura, and there are people that can see auras. Sometimes you can use some technology, photography to look at those things, but it's basically the field of our body. And a lot of times people are like, wow, that doesn't exist because we can't see it. But how long ago was it that we didn't see bacteria and viruses, and they didn't exist because we didn't see them? So I believe they're there, and I feel them. So if you look at electromagnetics, we talked a little bit earlier about this in terms of the EMFs that are in our world. So this chart is from the year 1900, and you can see the electromagnetic cycle per second. You know, you basically have lightning and some visible light, X-rays, and cosmic rays that are basically from the planet. And then if you look forward here, move to the next one, and you look at kind of where we are in our world today, things have changed quite a bit. In the year 2000, you know, FM and TV and AM and all these different things, and it just keeps getting more and more. We keep adding more and more of these things because of convenience. Oh, it's cool. You know, we talk about Wi-Fi and how fast it is, and oh my gosh, the new 5G is coming for our cell networks, and it's going to be, we're going to have the highest like Wi-Fi speeds wherever you are on your cell phone. Well, cool for technology and great for convenience, but what does that do to our biofield, our energy body? So we've got to do things to help balance that in the body, because this can cause all sorts of things, not the least of which is anxiety and emotional issues. So if you go look, these are just a couple articles. If you go look around on the internet, you can find all sorts of articles that talk about potential dangers around cell phones and what are they doing to our bodies. So I'm working with a company on my products page there that you see that has figured out a way to help to remove a lot of the electronic chaos that goes around these things. So on my cell phone, I have a device that allows it doesn't get rid of the cell signal. You can't do that or you wouldn't be able to use the phone. But what it does is it takes away the chaotic waves that are in there and turns them into more called biocompatible waves that don't impact your body as much. So I still don't think, even with these remediation devices, you should put the phone next to your head or keep it in your pocket at any length of time. Put it on speakerphone. If you have to put it in your pocket, put it in airplane mode. When you go to sleep at night, definitely get that phone away from you. You don't want to be interfering with your body's brain waves. So put the thing in airplane mode, get it at least 3 to 4 feet away from your body. For that matter, get all the electronics away from your head, because they are a huge impact on sleep. So careful with cell phones. I think I call them the cigarettes from the 1960s. Back in the 60s, you know, we were smoking and everybody was like, well, cigarettes probably aren't good for you, but, you know, it's not like people are dying from it. So we now know 50, 60 years later that, yeah, they really weren't so good. So today, I think that's the same thing in cell phones, is that I don't know how many years in the future we'll look back and go, that wasn't a great idea. You know, Apple's new wireless headphones emit radiation. Well, you know, they have these earbuds that don't connect to anything. You put them in your ears and they actually transmit from one to the other one across your brain. What could go wrong? I don't know. I don't know the answers, but I'm a little skeptical on that one. So I'd be careful. All right, so moving on to earthing. So if we're looking at electromagnetic frequencies, one of the best things that you can do to help your body to dump all this extra electricity and static electricity is to go get your bare feet on the earth. And a lot of us, did you grow up with bare feet on the earth, Paula? You were in Ecuador?
Yes, indeed. Lots
Tell
of
me
it.
you
It
did.
was beautiful.
That's what I'm thinking. I have this image of rocking around in the beautiful nature of Ecuador, and you know, even I grew up in Houston, and even in Houston we used to do this. But you know, we come out with rubber-soled shoes, which is great. Again, very convenient, handy, protecting for the feet. But it also insulates the body from the electricity that we need to pass with the planet. So this is actually one of my jet lag secrets that I talk about in my book, Travel Balance. When you go to a different time zone, you want to get out and get bare feet on Earth for at least 20 minutes to help sync you up into that time zone. So this book, Earthing, would be a good one to look into. One of the things I'd recommend that you get is a grounding mat that you put underneath your desk. And so whenever I'm working on my computer, I have this grounding mat that plugs into the ground pin on your electrical outlet. And then when you put your bare feet on that while you're working on the computer, it'll help to move those frequencies out of your body, which is key. So moving on. Essential oils. So one of the main things that we can use, this is an awesome tool that's really been around for, well, a long time, thousands of years. This is one of the original medicines, but it's made a big comeback in the last 30 to 40 years, thanks a lot to Gary Young and Young Living Oils. that started 30, 40 years ago in this space. And so essential oils were around with the Egyptian times, and it's basically the essence of the plant, where you go in there and you take the eucalyptus plant and you pull out what are the essential phytochemicals out of that plant and the healing properties. And there's so many of these things, from frankincense and myrrh. If you look in the Bible, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Well, frankincense and myrrh are two essential oils, very highly valued, even back in the biblical times. And so today we want to use these oils because they have the high frequencies that will help our body heal, and there's so many different ways that you can use them. So there's actually, if you go to that the link on the essential oils page there, you can go sign up for an Essential Oils 101 newsletter, and you can learn more about these, and I would highly encourage that. So if you look at energy healing modalities, I'm obviously not going to go through all these. I do what's called unconscious biofeedback in my practice. So I use a machine that's connected with a computer program that helps to send in about 7,000 frequencies into your body, measures your body's response, and then it sorts from high to low, your body's response. And then we send in balancing frequencies to help your body heal itself. If you look at acupuncture, as I talked about earlier, where you're putting in needles to open channels, chiropractic, where you're aligning the structure of the body so that it can support itself and open up the energy channels and chakras in the system. The massage and Reiki, all of these different modalities, if you go through the list here, all of them have the same thing in common. Their job is to remove stressors so your body can heal itself. And that's the key, because only you can heal you, only God heals you. Practitioners in these modalities just help. So moving on. So early acupuncture, this is what it probably looked like, Paola. Right? We had the big mastodon, and something good happened in there. All right. You always wonder how these things started, right? So how do energy modalities work? As I mentioned, there's all these different systems in the body, but the net of it is that energetic systems and energetic modalities that we have, regardless of what it is, relaxes the body, removes the stressors, and then allows the immune system and allows the body to do what it knows how to do. So moving on. So what happened to this? I mean, why are we not seeing more of this stuff today, right? And so the big picture there, money, unfortunately. One of my favorite books in my doctorate program talked about this, and it's actually, I have an excerpt on my website, and it's about this thing in 1910 called the Flexner Report, funded by Rockefeller and Carnegie. Those are some names that sound familiar. And they basically, in this report, established science would be the basis for all modern medicine. It was all slanted toward the pharmaceutical industry, and all of the electrotherapy and energy healing that was going on at the time, homeopathy, was all kind of moved out. Those schools were closed. The doctors were put in jail, and any devices that were going on at that time around energy healing were just kind of put in this museum of quackery, and the rest is history. And now we have a system today, at least in the US, that is based almost entirely, the Western model, based on the pharmaceutical and surgery model. So that's kind of where we are. The book is called When Healing Becomes a Crime. And it's about a guy named Harry Hoxsey, actually here in Dallas, that found a cure for cancer. And it was about the beginnings of the American Medical Association. And it's a very interesting read. I'm reading this thing like it's a soap opera. Like they arrested him 90 times, 90. And all of a sudden, every time they'd arrest him, somebody on the jury or the judge had been cured by him. So he got released, and off we go again. So wait a minute, what about science? So this world of science that we always hear about, and what about all the studies and the scientific studies from the Western medical side that we see? So if you take a look at that, click on that. These peer-reviewed science, if you look at some of the quotes in here, paid agents of the pharmaceutical industry. And so you look at the Harvard professor of medicine and editor-in-chief of the New England Medical Journal and the statement that he's making in there, which is not very good. And then the next one, if you click again, at the bottom here is when it speaks to the case against science, much of the literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue. So when you have these studies that come out that support certain things, like high cholesterol causes heart disease, there's so many things that refute that, and yet there's studies that show it. So All the things I'm telling you tonight are really, my opinions based on what I've been studying the last 20 years. I would encourage you to just go do your homework. So I'm just trying to show you and point to some things that you might not have thought about before. If you look at the mainstream media and you're getting your health information from them, you have to look and see who's sponsoring whatever it is you're watching. Is it a drug that's in the commercials, or is it the broccoli lobby? Probably not the broccoli lobby. So you have to look and see who's sponsoring the information. And I'm not saying it's all wrong. I'm just saying go do your homework, because there's a lot to be found, and we're lucky we have the ability to go look these days. So let's wrap this up then, Paula. And the hidden signs of disease, when you look at this, it's like the old iceberg picture that you see a lot. We see the top, the little iceberg, and they're just symptoms. Well, I have headaches, I have digestive things, I'm not sleeping well. The lack of symptoms doesn't mean a lack of disease. It's not just that I don't have this, diabetes, I don't have arthritis, or whatever. How well do you feel? And a lot of people don't realize how good that you can feel until you start doing some detoxes and things to help your health. So it takes a long time for diseases become visible. You don't just, one day you're healthy and the next day you have a heart attack. One day you're healthy and the next day you have cancer. These things are developing all the time, and they're below the surface and we don't see them. So the symptoms are the clues we have. And as holistic practitioners, most of them can see kind of, or give you a clue as to what's going on and what may be headed your way. But as always, prevention is the key in this area. So next slide. So just to kind of summarize here, healing occurs naturally if we talk about, if we give the body what it needs. We talked about water, and a good thought on this is to drink half your body weight in ounces. You're looking at your urine is really best way to judge it. And you look at your urine, if it is very dark, then you are definitely not drinking enough water. If it is clear, you may be drinking too much. It's possible. I did it because I was the overachiever, and when I got down this path and I heard about how great water was for me, I decided to drink a ton, and I drank more than a ton. And you deplete your minerals, kind of like sweating out too much. So you got to drink a lot, but I did it. So you have to be careful in there, and you're looking for like a light yellow color. Tells you they're kind of in a good hydrated space. If you're thirsty, of course, you're dehydrated as well. So try not to get there. Fresh air, get outside, get in nature, get those bare feet on earth as much as you can, preferably in wet soil, or going to a beach would be great, and getting in the ocean. Exercise, we talked about the best exercise, which is the one you'll do. And practicing that proper breathing that we talked about, where you're breathing through your diaphragm and making sure that you are activating your diaphragm and the parasympathetic nervous system. The diet, I didn't spend a lot of time. Again, we could do a whole show just on diet. It's fruits and veggies. It's the energy of the sun. It's the phytonutrients. That's what our bodies really want. Not saying meat is a bad thing, because I think that, in certain cases we need it. Just make sure it's good quality and in balance. But even with eating those, you still need supplements, because we just can't get enough of the nutrition that our bodies need today. So a balanced diet is key, and it depends, on the day as to what's the best one, Paleolithic or, the keto diet, or all these different ones. I think balance is key. You got to listen to your body, and the more you go down this path, the more and more you'll be aware of your body and in tune. So sunlight, we talked about getting outside. The sun is not our enemy. We need to get out there with as much skin as possible, 15 to 20 minutes, preferably before 10:30 in the morning and after 3, so it's not in the peak of the day. But make sure that you're getting out there so that your body can make that vitamin D that it needs, and then make that rest a priority. It really is a huge thing, and it'll come back to haunt you if not. So I think we got one more at the bottom there, that 7th one. Click one more time. And it is emotional spiritual health. We didn't spend a lot of time on this tonight, but one of the things that is key is the power of your thoughts. What you're thinking, as you know from looking at this station in Mindalia, is the mind-body-spirit connection. So there's a huge impact on what we're thinking and how healthy our body is. In fact, if you're trying to clear your body out from certain toxins and critters, parasites, viruses, bacteria, fungi, if you create an environment that is negative thinking, then you are going to create an acidic environment, and you can do that just with negative thoughts. So the power of what we're thinking and the words that we speak are incredibly powerful for our overall health. You want to have as positive an attitude as possible. Not to say that bad things aren't happening, because again, it is stressful. But if you will speak the words and keep your thoughts in positive mode as much as possible, then it's going to be great for your overall health. And of course, people want to be around you more. So if you want a copy of this summary, I have a sheet that has a little bit more detail on it. If you just go to johnao.com, it should take you to my website, which is also the same as aolifebalance.com. And then if you subscribe, I'll just email you this summary in a PDF document. Okay.
Awesome.
Next one.
Oh, there's more? Sorry about that, John.
Sorry, I think I got one more here, I think. So it's when I started off down this path, and it basically says this, you know, we are amazing beings and we can do so many things. And when you have your health, anything is possible. But if you don't, I can guarantee you nothing else matters. Doesn't matter how big your house is, how big is your bank account, right? Or, you know, anything else, the commission checks, everything, nothing else matters. It's all about, I just don't feel good and I can't get out of bed and it's horrible. I don't know if I'm going to be here to see my kids or my grandkids grow up. So focus on your health now and take responsibility. This is really my key message for you. Is take responsibility. Don't give your power away to anybody else, including the doctors. You need to do your homework and you need to take responsibility and do the things up front that are going to help you to be healthy. I think that's it, Paolo. What else we got?
I think that's it. I think we have now a short announcement, if you don't mind. Thank you so much, John, by the way, for sharing all this valuable information with all our Mindalia TV audience. We have reached now the end of your talk, but right before we move on to the questions from the audience, I would like to remind you all that Mindalia is a nonprofit organization. And our main goals are to help spread human knowledge and to promote planetary solidarity by all means. An important way to collaborate with us is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mindalia TV, since by doing so, you're telling YouTube basically to share more videos with more people around the world, just like you, who can benefit from the content of our channel. Now it is time to pass on to the questions from the audience. So John, thank you so much for everything, for all the information. I'll read them out loud to you, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's see. We have our first question from Texas, actually. And Leo is saying, I'm feeling young, but I'm also 50 years old. How do I stay young forever?
Oh, stay young forever. Wow. You know, I was just reading about this from Bruce Lipton. I don't know if you've ever studied Bruce Lipton. He's got some really interesting work that talks about epigenetics. And we talk about one of the things that's interesting is, first, it starts with the mindset. We have been programmed to believe we're going to be here 60, 70, 80 years. And so by then we'll be degenerated and we won't be feeling good and we'll be old and things won't be going well. First, you got to change that mindset and don't look at, they're just numbers. So first, just say, you know what, every day I'm getting more and more healthy. And all the things I'm talking about tonight are really about, they're just steps and pieces. There's no one thing you do. The more of these you do that are positive, and the less of the things that are negative that you do, the longer you'll live. And more importantly, the quality of the years that you'll have in your life, because that's really the key here. So, you know, drinking filtered water, eating the right foods, thinking the right thoughts, exercising, all those 7 principles I talked about, the more of them you do, the more likely you are to live a lot longer and, more importantly, live a quality life.
Great. Thank you, John. Let's move to the next question. I have the feeling that it comes from a mom. It's saying, how do we detox our homes for our kids, especially small kids, young children?
Yeah, it's really important because the air we breathe inside the house doesn't get cleaned out very much anymore. A lot of people don't even open their windows. So that would be step one, is on a nice pretty day, open the windows and let the natural air come through on both sides of the house, let the air go through. You've got to take out the chemicals in the house. So you got to look at the products you're using to clean your house and get rid of those things, any toxic candles or plug-ins or any kind of things that you're going to be breathing. Get rid of those chemicals. Use the essential oils and the essential oil derived cleaning products that are going to be more natural. They're going to smell right. Take them out. And by the way, even though you didn't ask, same thing applies for our pets. So people ask about taking care of their dogs and cats. Make sure those animals are getting filtered water as well, and they're getting real food. It's easier for them because they don't eat a lot of variety. So we have a golden retriever and a cat, and they get really good food. They get filtered water, and make sure that when they go outside that the yard doesn't have pesticides and herbicides all over it that are toxic, because their little noses are absorbing that stuff. So that's another thing. So detoxify the whole house to the best of your ability. And those are the main ways. The other thing is to remediate your house for the EMFs, the electromagnetic frequencies. And again, happy to help with that. A little bit more detail than we have time for here, but that's another part of it.
Great, John. Let's see. We have a question from Maria Garcia, and she wants to know how to take sun if every time it's hot, I get a headache, she says. Thank you.
Every time the sun is hot, yeah. Well, that can be the case. And you don't have to be, you can wear a cap or something like that. It's your skin. It's kind of like we're a big solar panel. Get out there with as much skin as possible and absorb it. Usually, the headaches could be a bunch of different things, so it's hard to say, but make sure you're drinking enough water and you're hydrated, because that sometimes can be a part of it. So drinking water, getting out bare feet on the earth when you do the sun, and if you need to wear sunscreen, you need to wear sunscreen. Sometimes the headaches are from eye issues. Right? You get out there and you look at the sun and it's like, oh, it's so bright, I have to put on sunglasses, which a lot of times that links back to the liver, and you have to look at issues that may be going on there, because the liver is linked in with the eyes on an acupuncture channel.
Great. This question comes from somebody in the US as well. And he's saying, I travel all the time. How can I keep my healthy habits while on the road?
Well, that is one of the things I think we're going to talk about at the end here, right? I wrote a book exactly on that. How do we stay healthy when we travel? I lived it for 12 years, 26 countries, 3 million miles. It's not easy. It's hard enough to stay healthy when we're home. When you're out on the road, the main answer is prep. You got to bring the right stuff with you, and you have to remove the stressors that you can along the way throughout the trip. So starting with a packing list that takes off a lot of stress before you even go anywhere is making sure you have everything, because there's nothing worse than that feeling when you get to the airport and you go, oh my God, I forgot my blank, contacts, glasses, or something that you really, really need. And then, what do you do when you get on the airplane and you're doing a long trip and you can't sleep? What happens when I get to the hotel room and I can't sleep, or I start getting sick, or I'm jet lagged, or, all the many other issues that happen in travel? It's tricky. And so I'm happy to help with that as I can. I have a lot of videos. I put little tips on my blog, on my Travel Balance site, which you can get to through johnayo.com.
Thank you, Jim. Let's see the next question. What types of diets or eating habits do you recommend to stay healthy?
So again, as I went back to, there's a bunch of different names and they change depending on the month and year that we have going on. Right now, as I'm speaking, the keto diet seems to be pretty popular, where we're going to eat a lot of fats and proteins, and we're going to really reduce the carbs. We seem to rotate through. Proteins are best, so we're going to have a lot of proteins, and we do this Atkins diet, and then we move to lots of carbs and then lots of fats, and it rotates around. I don't know which one to do. My opinion is balance and moderation. You have to listen to your body. So for me, it's more about the quality than it is the ratios of those things. So when I'm eating fats, am I eating the good kind of fat or the not good kind of fat? So the good fats are things like coconut oil, avocados, nuts and seeds, depending on if your body can tolerate those things. The bad fats would be the oils that we have that are the trans fats that you would want to avoid at all costs, the partially hydrogenated things, peanut oil, coconut oil, vegetable oil, which is not vegetable at all, really not good for you, canola oil. Those are all not so good fats. In the carb world, of course, the best carbs are going to be things that grow. So fruits and vegetables, the darker the better, because that's the most nutrition. The worst carbs are going to be the ones that are processed. So it's going to be the white flours and the sugars and all the derivatives that come from those processed grains and corn.
Okay, let's see. Let's move on to the next question. It says, how do you recommend to stop consuming so much sugar throughout the day? What examples, practical examples?
So, what's interesting, on my personal health journey, so I kind of mentioned this at the very beginning. What happened was I got sick about 20 years ago after working on the big deal that Paula told you about. And as I went through this journey, I realized that the big issue for me was fungus. And I went and worked with a guy that has a TV show on this called Doug Kaufman. His website is knowthecause.com, KNOWTHECAUSE. knowthecause.com, where he talks a lot about fungi. And fungi get in our bodies. They're always in our bodies anyway. All bacteria, viruses, and fungi are in our bodies all the time. They just live in moderation with the good guys. But when they get imbalanced, which usually happens when we take antibiotics, it can cause all sorts of issues in the body. The fungi actually are parasites, and they crave and eat sugar. So when you are craving sugar, sometimes it's really them that are craving sugar. So you might look at doing an antifungal diet. There is an herbal supplement called Gymnema, 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 that means sugar destroyer in Ayurveda, which is the Indian form of holistic medicine. And that can help you, but really the detox, you might look at the detox on my website as something to consider, because it can help you to reduce your sugar cravings during the day, because sometimes it's a discipline habit thing, but sometimes it really is a biochemical, like the parasites are really craving them and it makes you really crave them. So sometimes it's not just you.
All right. Let's see. The next question says, what actions can we take to help diminish the cell phone wave damage that causes into our body?
Yeah. So one of them is, again, remediating your phone with some kind of a device. So there are several of them out there. There's one I recommend on my site. But put something on your phone. More important than that is, again, when you're talking on it, put it in speaker mode and keep it a couple feet from your body. Use the Bluetooth in your car if you can. Put that thing in airplane mode as much as you can, and don't put it on your body and near to your body. That's probably one of the biggest things around there, is when I see women that come in with their cell phone in their bra, and they pull that thing out, I'm like, oh no, not a good thing to have it in there next to your body. So keep it away as much as possible. Airplane mode, turn it off if you can, which is a really foreign concept for all of us, is to just turn that thing off. But that's something to consider as well, because they're getting more and more powerful, and it's a challenge.
All right. Another question from our audience says, what are good substitutes for milk?
Good substitutes for milk. Well, you know what's interesting is that we're the only animal that drinks another animal's milk, number one. And number two, we're the only animal that drinks milk after it's been weaned. We've been weaned. So, we've been kind of programmed. The dairy industry's done a good job of telling us why we really need it. Not so sure we do, but if you're going to drink, again, the grass-fed raw milk, that's really pretty good for you. If you're going to look for alternatives to it, coconut milk is a pretty good one. There's a lot of them you can buy in the store. Some of these you can make. So coconut milk, almond milk, soy milk. You have to be careful with soy because it is a lot of GMOs, genetically modified organisms in there, and it's been processed and may not be the best for you. So I'm looking at macadamia nut milk, and most of the health food stores now have these. When I started on this path, there was pretty much almond milk, which was a big deal, and you can just make it with a bunch of almonds and water in a blender. So it's something to do if you want to put it on, cereal or something that you're eating every now and then. But I grew up on cereal and milk every day, and that was a huge part of the contributors to my health problems. So be careful with dairy. A lot of people are very sensitive to it as well, which is probably why you're asking alternatives. But if you're looking to put it on, cereal or something, then look at some of those other options in the stores.
Great. Thank you for that information, John. Let's see the next question. It says, can you show a quick, easy technique to breathe while sitting in front of the computer?
Can I show it? Let me see.
Many thanks.
So as I'm sitting here like this, and we hunch over, number one, that's going to cause back problems. It shortens up all your stomach muscles in here. So one of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is you've got to sit up straight. And so you can't see this, and I don't think I can show you, but I am sitting on an exercise ball. Right? And that gets me out of the hunch mode. And the reason why I used to have lower back pain, 15, 20 years ago, because I was in a chair and on a computer all day, and I would be hunched over because it's easy to do. So sitting on a ball is a good idea. It makes you sit upright, keep your spine straight. And then when you breathe, again, keep your chest still so you didn't even see it move. And you breathe deep down inside below your belly button. And you know what? Be an even better idea is to close your eyes for like 3 minutes and just take in 3 or 4 deep breaths a couple times a day. Not only will it help with the breathing aspect, but it helps you to just calm down in general. And boy, don't we need that these days.
Agreed. We have an interesting question here, Jen. It says, I frequently go to help kids in need and teach them how to overcome their limiting beliefs. They barely have something to eat. How can I start teaching them about energy and longevity if their needs are right now and still basic?
Boy, that's a good one. I don't know that that's in my purview of things. I have not been in that situation, so I don't know that I can give you an experienced answer on that one. It's so important to go inside with gratitude for wherever we are, to just know, you know what, you're breathing, you have water, you have what you have. It may not be much, but you have something and you are here today. So everything always starts in the spiritual world with gratitude, to being grateful for what we have today. And then knowing that there's better times ahead and that it's temporary. That's a tough one. You got me on that one. Do you have anything on that, Paula? What would you say?
Honestly, no. You're the expert today.
I'm not an expert on that one. That's a tough one, and I haven't been in that place. But
Thank you so much, John. We have reached now the final question, and it's from Kansas. It says, "How can we align our chakras at home?"
How can you align your chakras at home? There are different ways to do this. Breathing is a huge way to do it. There are different meditation systems that you might look into to help with that. The best way, I mean, that's yoga. That's what yoga is all about, is opening and releasing these chakras. The essential oils can help to open the chakras. I have a little kit here that uses essential oils in my office that allows me to open my own chakras up. Breathing is the foundation. Yoga is the foundation. I think those are probably the best things. You know, that's where Reiki comes in, and some of these other energy healing modalities, like the biofeedback that I do as well. But doing it, opening your chakras on your own, I think breathing is the best way. And there's some other energy techniques. In my book, I talk about a system called Jin Shin Jitsu, that basically you're putting your hands on different parts of the body and you're moving energy. So you might look at that, Jin Shin Jitsu, and I think it was on one of the slides in there. But it helps to move energy and open the channels. And the more you open the channels, the more the chakras open, and then good things happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Again, we had many people from all over the US watching, maybe also from other countries. And right before we finish, I would like to give you a moment so you can remind us all how we can find you, all your information, and also just a moment to say goodbye to our audience.
Oh, thank you, Paola. So, yeah, as I had on the last slide there, the best way to find me is just johnayo.com, which will take you to my main John the Naturopath site, and you can subscribe there to get information from me. I don't really send out newsletters, but really little news snippets every now and then with things that I find. I post a lot on my blog and then my Facebook page and all those good things. But I ask you to just subscribe to that, take a look at the products, and see if there's anything of interest of what I talked about tonight. And then, of course, as I talked about, you know, if you do travel or you know somebody that travels, you know, my book called Travel Balance could be helpful for you. My email is on my website, so feel free to email me if I can help with any questions. I do work with remote clients all over the world, so if I can help with anyone, I'm happy to help. Thank you guys for having me. It's been great.
Thank you, John. And we appreciate all the information that you have shared live with us. To all our audience, thank you so much for your participation. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to give us a like on this video or leave a positive comment down below. That way you help us reach even to more people around the world and share more and more information as well. We'll see you next time all in the next live stream of Mindalia TV. John, again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.